Richard Lane, not Brett Selliers. I run security and IT for Zip. Zip are an international buy now, pay later company. Oh God, I'm trying to remember the proper marketing spiel for what the company is, but I'll simplify and basically say it's a way to save millennials from the credit card companies. I hope none of them are here. I joined Zip almost 18 months ago, and Zip had grown really, really rapidly via a whole ton of acquisitions. So the standard joke I have been making literally for over a year now, is 6 startups in a trench coat pretending to be a multinational fintech. And because of that, the environment was really complex. When I joined, we had 2 completely independent, quite large-scale Atlassian environments, one built by a large US fintech that we purchased. Had about 250 people working for it, about half of them were software developers. Zip was about 450 people in Australia, and about 150, 200 software devs, product people, etc. They'd each built their own environments using basically everything. And the other issue was, when I joined, there'd not really been an actual global security or IT team. So all of these platforms were run by software developers, and I hope very few of you have ever had the experience of seeing how awesome software devs are at being systems administrators. So we had a very complex environment of Atlassian products. I'd been there about 6 months, and I got a call from Atlassian, a cold call, saying, hey, we have a customer support function now. And I'm like, what? You guys don't do customer support? And they went, we do now. And I'm like, yay! So they came and had a look at my environment for a couple of weeks, and I think they panicked. But anyway, what actually happened is they said, let's introduce you to our platinum partner. So I'd like to introduce Brett from Elegance Group, which is who Atlassian pointed me at when their post-sales customer support sort of went, oh my God, please no. Brett.
Hi everyone, Brett from Elegance Group.
So I was, to begin with, somewhat apprehensive about using a partner. I've been looking forward to getting Atlassian to fix it for me for free. And they'd decided that that was probably going to be too much work. And I was a bit worried that, oh no, I'm going to be working with a partner and they're just going to see me as a blank checkbook. But that very much hasn't been my experience, which is why I've flown down from Sydney to Wellington, literally just to give this talk, because my experience with the partner program has actually been very good. We started off with some relatively basic stuff, and I will try and remember everything that we've done, and I've got some notes here to try and help. But when I started this, we had, now you remember the number of developers I told you we had. That US instance with 150 devs had about 600 users on it, authenticating using Google Workspace. The Australian one had about 800 users on it, authenticating using one logon, but really badly. We had 6 status pages, 5 Ops Genies, 2 Confluences, 2 Jiras,
And the list goes on.
Yeah, etc. And part of what my remit was to try and get the global multinational onto a single set of tools. And that was not easy. on the Atlassian side. My team includes some IT automation engineers and IT ops, and we did try and do some of the cleanup ourselves, and we did manage to do a few things. I jibe at the software devs for being like not particularly excellent sysadmins, but having had to administer the entire Atlassian suite at 2 different fintechs now, I will say that the administration portal is clearly not the most loved feature of the platform. And it is relatively easy to make relatively serious mistakes. And the one that resulted in me being given sole administrative control of our entire global Atlassian environment was the advice from the admin portal to head of DevOps in the US saying, if you click this button, all of these license request problems will go away. And it did, because it just gave 600 people JSM technician licenses, which was about plus $40,000 a year. Sorry, a month. Thankfully, I spotted that one before the end of the month and went, do we really want to be spending almost $100,000 a month US on Atlassian stuff? And they went, no. And I went, okay, well, you're going to have to give it to me. So they gave it to me, engaged with Atlassian. Atlassian went, how many ops genies? And then introduced me to Brett. Brett did some spend analysis on what we were doing with our environment and worked out that we were spending about $550,000 US a year. And he worked out that if we did some consolidation, migrated to enterprise, we could drop that by about $220,000 a year just by doing some basic migration. So he likes to phrase that as 1.2 million over 5 years because it's a bigger number. But it was very challenging work to do. We had tried to do bits of it ourselves, and it is not easy to simultaneously change the email address that everyone's logging onto, migrate all of your environments from one organization to another organization, change the SSO provider, and not have it all go very, very pear-shaped. So, like, my team broke it once, backed out the changes, engaged Elegance Group. They moved it the second time. Even the second time, it wasn't completely flawless. I just need to remember exactly what the wording was that we agreed. There remain opportunities for future improvement in exactly how Atlassian do the authentication of some of their acquisitions, ops genie cough. Where we found what looked to us like a race condition in how the actual directory synchronization occurs under the covers. Because we did a small-scale test migration of about 20 users, worked flawlessly, then ran the big script to migrate 500, and about 10% of them had their accounts no longer work post-migration, and that caused a Sev 1 because it was, of course, the 50 people in the DevOps team who needed 24/7 access, and then none of their accounts worked and they couldn't log on. Again, fixed it, no major issues. We're now in the process of doing a migration of the 6 Ops Genie instances down to probably 2 JSM premiums. So we're taking advantage of the fact that these are being migrated into the core platform. I think that's about half done.
Yep.
That's saving us over 80,000 US a year in Ops Genie licenses in exchange for about a 40 grand upgrade to my JSM license. So, payback period is less than 6 months. Here we go. I see that Brett's written that down as a reduction of 96% in annual Ops Genie costs, which is one of those wonderfully technically true things. But again, it does end up being a really complicated thing to try and do, but it can be done. It's just something that, even with some really good IT automation engineers in my team, we struggled to do internally because, yeah, great, they can write code, they can build serverless stuff, etc., but that doesn't mean that they know the Jira API backwards and forwards and the Confluence API backwards and forwards. And they don't know how to do all of, the exact bits and pieces and intricacies of just exactly how Skim works on access and things like that. They've done a few other smaller things for us. These, not everything that, so after sort of allaying my concerns about, am I going to be just a blank check to support the partner? After those concerns went away, there were things that we did that were just like, yeah, cool, I will pay you to do this because you will be able to do it far faster than my team will be able to do it, which lets my team go and work on other stuff. We were using a Jira add-on called Checkout to do purchase orders for my team because, again, 6 startups in a trench coat. When I rocked up, my IT manager was doing 6-figure laptop orders with no paperwork to cover him. So I put together the team put together a little purchase order app so that they could actually, formally grab my approval. The add-on that we found could only do 1 currency at a time, so I had 9 copies of the thing running because I was buying stuff in 9 different currencies. And Brett went, "Why do you have this app? Like, you could do this in native Jira." And I went, "No, you could do this in native Jira. How much is it going to cost me?" And the answer was less than the annual renewal would have been for those 9 little copies of the add-on. So he built it into our new, shiny new ITSM portal and consolidated 9 projects into one and integrated it with the portal and etc. Another one was, again, because my environment had been run by developers for developers, we had 3 major dashboard add-ons that they were running, plus I don't know how many minor ones. I think when we did the add-on,
5 or 6 dashboard add-ons.
yeah, like when we did the add-on cleanup and went, no, this is built in now, this is built in now, this is built in now. That was about 50 grand a year of add-ons that we cancelled just because it was now built-in functionality of Jira Enterprise or Confluence Enterprise. And so we consolidated away all of the dashboard apps. And again, that was one where it's like, I'll pay you to do that, please, because they can do it so much faster than someone else learning how to do it. I've got another one that I've just approved this morning, which is therefore not on the deck, which is migrating my Australian marketing team from Trello to Jira Work Management. And again, JWM, I've got the full fat with everything core license for Jira. So it's going to, I'm not going to have to pay for Trello anymore if I can work out a way to stop paying for Trello, but that's a different problem. If there's someone from Atlassian who can help me with that, please come and see it. And things like the data lake and the BI tools and all the rest of it, this is all super helpful stuff because it lets me retire add-ons, it lets me migrate to core functionality. But in a lot of cases, the teams who have built these dashboards don't have the time, or it's not a good use of their time to have them do the migration work. So I can, and again, because Elegance Group know this stuff so well and they do it every day, they can do it really quickly, which means it's not very expensive, which means it ends up being an investment that is a good use of my budget, even when it doesn't actually save me money. But Jesus Christ, if any of the rest of you are in the situation where you have inherited an environment or you are running an environment that is a mess, maybe engage with a partner as I said, so like I will this financial year spend low six figures with my Atlassian partner, but it will save me 3 or 4 times that amount in Atlassian licensing, which maybe they didn't want me to say up here. But it has also led me to migrating to enterprise and consolidating a lot of stuff onto it and retiring a lot of other products. So, I mean, you know, Atlassian Suite's already pretty sticky, but the new ITSM portal, I'm going to be trying to push legal onto that and HR onto that and maybe finance onto that. And you know, this is where you can start seeing real benefits from using a partner. Yeah, I should probably let you talk as well.
No, that's all right. We just had a little bit more to cover, but yeah, one of the other things that we also discussed was how we leveraged enterprise licensing. So where we have maybe an expensive marketplace add-on, and we might want to only have a select group of users have licenses to that add-on, we can stand up free sites under the enterprise add-on and also use that as a separate sandbox environment, or leverage that native feature to test these add-ons prior to committing.
Yeah,
to that
so
cost.
even post-migration, I'm still running 2 confluences, but now my users only count once. My users can access each other's environments without having to load them over there into that Google Workspace, because I also had 2 Google Workspaces and 2 Office 365s and etc. Because again, like we had 2 or 3 or 5 of everything. So we've been able to retain, like the US instance has a slightly different set of add-ons to the Australian instance, and the user counts can be a bit smaller, and then we can spin up a small one for like the specialist, sometimes expensive add-ons, or as I say, to like do something that's going to require schema changes or alterations or extras. I remember when we tried to fix the original ITSM portal, and we tried to find, what was the attribute? It was like,
Was it the AD attributes?
and it was like we were trying to find the AD attributes, and we looked up the container object that was meant to be in there, and it said, which of the 56 of that name do you mean? Because there were 56 copies of that object in the schema. And so being able to create a fresh, clean one, load the ITSM module on, and only have like 1 copy of the Active Directory attributes instead of 50 something, again, like was an advantage of moving to enterprise licensing. I was hoping that maybe someone would have questions as well. Is there anyone who...
Please feel free to jump in, guys. We had a kind of interactive session planned, and happy to discuss the relationship and how we lay certain spheres around engaging a partner, and some of the different things that we've tackled and the different problems, and how we've resolved those. So please feel free to jump in. Scared them away.
Oh, yes. Took over here.
Just wondering, it sounds like sort of from a licensing point of view, mostly everyone, if not everyone, has a Confluence license, especially across all the multitude of environments we've got. That's not true.
So a core part of the problem with the high license counts was twofold. We had sort of everyone from the Australian team wanting access to the US instance and vice versa. But we also, particularly in the United States, they were very bad at offboarding. And so they had several hundred users that had left the company, had their accounts disabled, but had never had their licenses reclaimed. So we currently do not quite have enough Confluence licenses to give everyone in the company a license, but it's close. And it is certainly something that I am considering doing. Confluence is not our core intranet platform. it is our core technical knowledge-based platform. So all of the technical information in the company is in it, but for example, the leave policy isn't. And so we've got probably about 2/3, 3/4 of the company would be in Confluence, but there's a small chunk of the company that isn't.
Yes, I'd like to ask if you're in cloud.
Oh, 100%. There is a tiny little legacy Bitbucket that will be going away one day. You know, everyone knows legacy lasts forever. But no, we are 100% cloud, and I would certainly, I don't even think you can anymore, but I would not recommend using the on-premise products nowadays. I had to run a bunch of them at previous fintech about 5 years ago, and that was even more painful. We had a mix of cloud and on-premise, and they couldn't use the same authentication technologies. So I was running 3 different directories just for my Atlassian products. That seems to be mostly resolved, thank God. Oh, yeah.
Just interested if you've done much specific work on the quality and structure of your information across your conferences, given you've inherited a bunch of stuff, whether that's sample positions or...
Nuke the site from orbit, it's the only way to be sure. I literally started over with the corporate knowledge base, and we spun up a completely new one step from top level org called Zip-Corp instead of Zip-Co, which is where the corporate knowledge base will go. And one of the things that we have done as part of this cleanup is being incredibly brutal on who is allowed any sort of administrative access to any of the platforms, because I was constantly having problems with like random software engineers going, this add-on looks interesting, I'm just going to add it. And they would add an add-on that would immediately say 800 licenses please, and would like just hit next month's bill. And we have hundreds and hundreds of sites and projects, particularly in what was the original Australian environment. I'm not quite sure how we're going to clean that up, short of, well, one of the things that's on Brett's backlog is to do a monumental permissions and access rights cleanup where we're halfway through migrating everyone to scheme-based groups instead of manually configured groups in the Atlassian admin portal, which is what I inherited. We're moving from that to groups that come straight out of my role-based access control, which for me is Azure AD, straight out of the HR system. So if someone's in AU engineering, there is a group for that. That group is automatically maintained inside Azure AD based on the HR data. That group is now pushed into the Atlassian environment, and we're in the process of moving all of the old users and old groups into a design from the top down, much simpler access environment, and putting on my security and governance hat, where I have been. I was the security risk manager for the Commonwealth Bank and the National Broadband Network, trying to be too purist with need to know access rights is a path to madness and impossible to manage complexity. Your default should be everyone in engineering has access to everything on Confluence and everything on Jira, unless there is a specific reason to restrict it. Do not flip it the other way around and go, we're only going to grant access on an exceptions basis. You go, everyone's a software engineer, I don't know what team they're going to be in tomorrow. The default for documentation and projects and things like that should be open slather. But that helps avoid people going, oh, I can't find a Confluence site for XYZ, I'm going to make one. And then we've got 6 sites for one microservice because it's being created by 6 different teams. So yeah, that can be a real challenge and is one of the real problems that I'm sort of facing into next. And again, because my team don't have the time to go and dig into the Atlassian API, because I've this financial year gone from running about 3 dozen SaaS apps to I've been given over 600 to run this year. And so that's another outsourcer to Elegance Group. I'll have to design it, I'll have to wrap the structure around it, and when I say I mean my team. But then the actual moving all of the users out of the groups, deleting the groups, cleaning up the groups, and doing that work can be done so much faster by someone who can do it with a 10-line script because they know the API. And I'm out of time.
Yeah, we are.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard from Zip and Brett from Elegance Group. I did hear somewhere that there's $200,000 worth of licensing money left over, so it's anxious if you could just catch up with Brett. That would be great. We're going to break for morning tea now.